Hey, Daryl, so good to see you.
Hey, Charlene, how are you doing?
We're living the dream, right, Daryl? We're living the dream.
Looks like you're in a conference room out there.
I just want to be close to sunshine. As long as I'm not in the snow, I'm pretty happy.
I'm the same way. That's why I live in Austin.
I know sometimes I'm always like, how does it even snow in Texas? Like my brain doesn't wrap around that really well because I'm always shocked when I see, 5 feet of snow in San Antonio or in Dallas where, all the schools are closed. And so I know you love the warmth of Austin and that you don't have to deal with that.
We don't really count Dallas as part of Texas, so
Because Austin is the capital, guys, of Texas. If you did not know where all the magic happens, it happens where Daryl lives. That is the reason why he's saying that tongue in cheek. I tell you, you just want to get this, you want to get the most out of this live. I'm telling you, you bring experts like Daryl in, and they're like, I don't count Dallas. I'm like, okay, now we got it. Well, Daryl, it's really great because I know last week we were really helping these MSPs understand, the power of their L2 and L3 and how to keep them happy. And one of the things that I think as we continue to move and people have given us feedback, people don't realize you can increase your revenue with having training that really helps your team move into more of a successful role. It contributes more to client happiness. And of course, at the end of the day, the MSP overall improves. And so I'm excited to talk about this and see your expertise from all of your years of exiting successfully over 20 years. And of course, now currently as an instructor for Total Seminars. So I can't wait. Why do people miss this truth, Daryl, that increasing your revenue can be done with training?
I'm not sure MSPs missed it as a truth. I think they all understand that training can help them increase revenue. The problem is that MSPs experience client emergencies on a daily basis, right? As a
Mm,
client, you might experience an emergency 1 out of 500 days, right? Where everything is down, you can't get any work done. For an MSP, that's an everyday event. You just, I mean, it's a whole process that you have to deal with an emergency because it happens all the time. And the problem is that training is about number 55 on the list of things that needs to get done every day. And so while you know it needs to get done, those client emergencies and every one of the 54 things above it take precedence. And so you end up getting into this pattern of trying to schedule training and then not getting around to it because something else took precedence over it.
that's right. And isn't that a common thing, as business owners, when you're wearing multiple hats and you're trying to, fill in, a lot of times they start off as a technician and then they, establish an MSP and then they hire. And then all of a sudden they're still wearing all those hats because they haven't worked themselves out of the role. Daryl, that's a really good point. I really appreciate that. That makes a tons of sense. So when you think about it, the training that MSPs are needing to grow, I always think about the L2, L3 because that's really replacing them.
Absolutely. So I mean, L2 and L3 training is great because if you're as an organization, if you're putting the time into training those people, they look at it as you being invested in their career. And so the more training that you can get for them, the more invested in their career that you are, and the longer you're going to have them. So the less likelihood of them just jumping ship and going somewhere else. Um, but at the same time, the training that you're doing for them is very specific in technologies, right? They know how to troubleshoot. They know how to do all the basic things that an MSP does. And so you might be training them on, cloud services, which is a new product for you, which obviously increases revenue because now you can go provide cloud services to your customers.
Right.
But it's more of a very specific training program where, what excites me is when we get down into the L1 knock level. When we train them on something specific today, and they're billing for it tomorrow.
Right.
We train them how to set up a computer, and now every new computer that comes in that needs to be set up, you have a knock person that's doing it instead of your expensive L2 and L3.
Right.
We train them on phone skills, and now they're increasing your client satisfaction tomorrow on the phone. And so, really, when we get people that are new coming into the organization, the amount of training that you do is directly proportional to revenue the next day. And so, you're able to do very small amounts of training that directly affect the billings that are happening to your customer and the free time that your L2s and L3s have to do more advanced work.
Well, and I appreciate that because MSPs, you guys do a per seat, and then you need projects, and then you've got this ticketing, right? That you can say, hey, we've got new opportunities. We didn't talk about this in our current SAL, but here's other things that we're doing, or in your, QBRs with them. Your clients are telling you what they're doing so that you can align your business technology with the goals that they have. So hopefully, Daryl, as you're saying, this L1 might be today billing, maybe 2-3 times more because now they're trained and now they have a skill that you can actually go out. You actually guys should actually include that as part of your QBR so that now there's a roadmap.
Absolutely. And it's, I mean, by what we always tell people is that your L2s and your L3s are paid for availability, right? So there are times that I would expect an L2 and an L3 technician to have their feet kicked up and not be doing all that much,
Right.
because we pay them to be available at 2 o'clock in the morning when everything breaks loose, right? And nothing is working, and Whole Foods is coming in tomorrow for a massive presentation that you're giving, and you don't have a presentation because your IT is not working. That's what we pay those techs for. And so the more that we can take off of their plate in communication, not even on the technical side. Obviously, we want to train those lower end techs on the technical side so they can move up and be higher end techs.
Right.
But even the training around technical, right? By allowing us to move that work downhill into that knock or L1 position, we're freeing up those L2 and L3s to do much more impactful work.
Right. And guys, this is something that Daryl just said, and I think we said this again. It's the career mapping. If you're mapping the career out for retaining great talent, you're doing that when you're hiring them, interviewing them, and when you're onboarding them. Because they might say, hey, if you've got L2, L3 opportunities here, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to deliver. I'm going to go above and beyond because you're securing what they consider a roadmap to their growth. And that's what Daryl's really asking us to do as MSPs is to look at all of your team members and say, who can get billable hours the next day if I train them? Who's going to give me more freedom because you're running the business? And third, and Daryl, this comes right back to you. When you were in your MSP, how many times did you hear the 3 a.m. call? How many times did you miss, a holiday, an anniversary, a birthday, because you were dealing with the reaction of having, to deal with clients who have these problems? It happens a lot to you guys.
Too many times. But it's part of the job, right? It's part of the business. And not even really within an MSP, it certainly happens more often. But I think the fact that it happens more often, we're also able to plan for it. We know that it's going to happen. We're able to, schedule techs ahead of time that are going to be available for those emergencies, as opposed to whoever happens to be listening to the phone at the time getting it. And so I think it's a plus and a minus. We see them all the time, but that also lets us treat it as a business process. Where in another company that just has an internal IT team, they might have an emergency every 3 months, and that person just didn't get the call because he didn't expect it.
Right.
It doesn't happen enough for them to really to pick up that phone.
Right. And guys, it could be an add-on if you really think about, your scope of work. If you would, package it out and say, for 24/7 service, or if you only have service from 8 to 5, I mean, you could really upsell your clients right now if your team knew all the things that you were doing. And I think, Daryl, that's a big gap I've seen with MSP business owners and MSP deliverable and fulfillment. Sometimes they don't know all the things they do.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's we're all techs that start this stuff, right? And then we figure out the sales side and how to do it. And I think one of the things we miss is we don't when we build something new, we don't see it as a value to the customer right away. We see it as a value to ourselves.
Exactly.
And so we're not advertising it back into our customer base to get them to get them using it.
Exactly.
And it's just it's kind of how we work.
Well, and Daryl, the other day I was talking to one of our MSPs and I said, I want you to look at your offerings. And he looked at me kind of puzzled. He's like, what are you doing? You're marketing. I said, well, I want to look at your offerings. And he was like, why? I said, because if you had an L2, L3 distinction on your offerings and said, hey, for this price, you can get our L2, L3, which is, better response. They're going to answer your call faster. You're going to get this service 24/7. I said, you could sell the premium of your service instead of saying everyone's the same rate. And they were just kind of shocked because they said, well, Shirley, now we can actually increase by 5 to 7%. And I said, what could you do with 5 to 7% more revenue? Oh, I could actually hire another tech. I could actually, take another day off. I'm like, then why aren't you doing it? They're like, oh, that's a better way to make revenue because we have training. I said, exactly. That's how you implement it into your offering, into your business. And Daryl, I think you've been around the block so many times, you know that these are the things like you just said, like your tech, you're not looking at that as a business owner. Those are things that are, oh crap, I should have done that.
There's a million things. I think last time we talked, I said we always felt like we were the best at this and nobody could give us any advice. And then you start getting people that come in and they give you, this one liner that just blows your mind. And it's things like that just you would never think of as coming into this industry from a technical perspective on how to do these things.
No.
And it's huge for once you learn how to talk to your customers and how to go in and learn about their businesses and what they're concerned with. The sales process almost just happens by itself after that. You
Yes.
go and sit down with them and you say, oh, I have these other 3 customers that have that same problem. And here's what we've done for them. And they say, I'll take it.
Well, and guys, you should be proud that you provide training. Like Daryl, I think in your MSP years, being able to provide that higher end experience, being able to say, we're a trusted advisor, we're aligning, your business goals with our technology ability, allows that person to just let the reins go and kind of lets Daryl and your team take over because they're not having to worry about it. They're like, this is a stress I don't need to worry about. Just give it to Daryl and his team. And many MSPs who are watching this are probably going, yeah, how do I get them to trust me, to let me do my job?
We train confidence more than anything else because our clients don't know how to determine our technical ability, right? They know if we fix their problems or not, but they don't know how well we fix those problems. They just know that they got fixed. And
Right.
so the way that they figure out if we're trustworthy and good or not is in the way that they know how to determine that. And a lot of that is confidence. Is if we're confident in what we're doing, they trust us. And if we're
Mhm.
not, if our techs are not confident when they're talking on the phone, if they're not confident in saying, "Don't worry about this, we've got it," even when they're not maybe all that confident, then our customers don't trust us, even if we're the best techs in the world.
Right. No, that's exactly true. And guys, the confidence comes from training. That confidence comes from knowing and having enough experiences. And this is how your MSP grows without you having to be the sole reason why it grows. You have a whole team around you. And Daryl, that's perfect into my last question is when the training happens, how do business owners, get behind it? I think some people wait till Q4 to do training. And I think it should be lifelong throughout the cycle of the year because there's so many opportunities that they missed that. And I my question is, so Daryl, how can a business owner change with doing training earlier in the year instead of waiting to Q4 to do it?
So what I'll say is, I think in everything in life, consistency beats performance any day. And so, the way that we do our training is a little bit every day.
Yeah.
Because you take that little bit that you learned yesterday and put it into effect tomorrow. And if you take 30 minutes a day or an hour a day to do training, you're not taking up a whole week to get something done because you waited to the last minute. And
Right.
2, throughout the year, they're constantly putting that to use instead of getting 4.5 weeks of training at the end of the year. And now you've overloaded them. They hate working there because they've had to go do this training for so long.
Right.
And they haven't remembered any of it because now they're on Christmas vacation and New Year's and all of those things that come at the end of the year. And now it's just gone by the time they come back January 1st. And so I think it's all about consistency. It's about doing a little bit every day.
Well, and I want to make sure everyone heard what Daryl said. Consistency over a long period of time helps retention, helps with application, and definitely helps where those dollars that you're investing into a training program like Total Seminars will help your tech actually get the confidence so that they can actually help your clients and help you as a business owner. I think a lot of people miss that. Every single time I've talked to someone about training, they're waiting till Q4 when 2 weeks of Christmas is going on because there shouldn't be any problem, Shar. And I'm like, so what about the whole year? You just missed the opportunity to make some revenue on this.
Well, and you have billable people, right? And it goes back to that. We constantly deprioritize training because of other things that are more important that are going on.
Right.
And if you schedule a certain amount of time every day for the training part, then you can, I mean, you probably still are going to have to deprioritize it sometimes, but
Right.
at least the days that you don't have to deprioritize it, it's getting done.
Yes. And guys, that's the key. And Daryl, again, every week we're going to be doing this training and talking about how to be better operating your IT firm, your company, your MSP, your organization, because we feel like training, guys, really is the anchor for all success. You know, if your techs don't know what to do, it's our responsibility to provide that training and support. So, like Daryl said, that we have confidence. So, Daryl, I can't wait for us to do next week. And again, Daryl, thanks so much for always being here, and Total Seminars for making this happen.
Thanks for having me.
Daryl, that was so good. I can't believe